A very good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Beetv News Updates at 3. I am Ruth Obodo and now the news in detail. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohamed Pat, says President Bola Tinubu's commitment to keeping Nigeria's polio-free is backed by ongoing federal, state and local government collaboration to strengthen the primary healthcare system. Pat said the government is retraining health workers and upgrading primary health infrastructure nationwide, noting that mass immunization efforts have resulted in more than 50 million children being vaccinated against yellow fever, measles, and HPV in the last 2 years. Of new vaccine delivery technologies is accelerating the country's capacity to protect its population. Speaking at the Global Polio Pledge event in Abu Dhabi, UAE philanthropist Bill Gates warned that developing countries face a higher risk of polio resurgence and require more support than the international community is currently providing to safeguard vulnerable populations across the global south.
Countries, we have achieved a feat that has to be completed. I think in these times of uncertainty, when hope is shaken in terms of the state of the world, I would argue that the story of polio eradication gives us an important reason to renew our hope. For us in Nigeria, this is something that we've gone through and we're still at it. I remember when I was a young boy, I had friends who could not go to school. I had young men who could not play soccer because they were afflicted by polio virus. And today, Nigeria had been certified wild polio virus free.
The name of the game here is that if a country is healthy, then it can educate its kids and have economic growth and become self-sufficient. So many recipients like India, Indonesia, Vietnam, took Gavi money and other primary healthcare work and now are completely self-sufficient. And although we have a long ways to go to get every country to that point, our aspiration over the next 20 years is that we get every country to have healthy kids, kids who thrive, and that they're completely self-sufficient.
In Cameroon's far north region, thousands of Nigerian refugees who have spent over a decade in displacement receive renewed hope as Borno State Governor Babagana Umara Zulum visited the farmlands provided to them by the Cameroonian government. His visit came with new commitments designed to support their stability, boost their resilience, and facilitate their eventual return home. The report.
In the Minawao refugee settlement in Cameroon far north region, Nigerian refugees, many from Gwoza and Bama, continue to rebuild their lives more than a decade after fleeing the Boko Haram insurgency. Families who have relied heavily on humanitarian aid now depend on farmlands allocated to them by the Cameroonian government. During a visit to the farms, some refugees said they had lost everything when they fled, but described the land as the one resource that has helped them survive. Moved by their efforts to keep farming with limited means, Borno State Governor Babagana Umara Zulum pledged to drill boreholes across the farmlands to improve irrigation and support food production.
It's part of our corporate social responsibility scheme. I believe even after their return, the community will remember that federal government of Nigeria and indeed the government of Borno State have supported them. Those that are willing to return and those that will remain behind will be supported so that they will sustain their livelihood. We have a very good relationship because people of Cameroon and people of Nigeria, we have the same culture, same religion, same tradition.
Beyond offering humanitarian assistance, Zulum assured the refugees that his government remains committed to securing their safe, voluntarily and dignified return to Nigeria. Lawmakers representing Gwoza at both the state and national levels supported his position, stressing that the welfare and future of the displaced population remain a shared priority.
I'm sure that the federal government is doing something and it will do something in order to bring back our people, resettle our people that are particularly outside the countries.
For the refugees in Minawao, the visit was more than symbolic. It served as a reminder that even after a decade in exile, they have not been forgotten and their path toward normalcy is still being supported. Evelyn is able to report for BTV News.
President Bola Tinubu has called for stronger accountability across Nigeria's public service, stressing that meaningful progress can only be achieved through strict adherence to rules and measurable performance. He made the statement at the State House in Abuja during the Nigeria Excellence Awards in Public Service, where astounding federal and state institutions were recognized for exceptional performance. The report.
The event celebrated excellence, but President Bola Tinubu took the opportunity to emphasize that public service must be guided by discipline, accountability and results. Represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, he noted that weak sanctions and inadequate oversight continue to erode public trust.
Public service is a public trust where officers and even employees must be accountable to the people whom they should serve at all times with utmost responsibility, integrity, loyalty, and efficiency. They are expected to act with patriotism and think out of the box in order to solve the many problems facing the people they lead.
One of the evening's top honors went to NDDC Managing Director Dr. Samuel Ogbuku, who received the award for excellence in infrastructure delivery and sustainable regional development. His leadership has earned widespread praise from industry stakeholders and President Bola Tinubu alike.
This is to say we should do more. We are not going to lie on our hours because maybe we have awards. It is to say we should do more. And we are going to do better. Because you see, the reason why we're going to do better is that Mr. President has decided to focus his attention on the Niger Delta to ensure that the Niger Delta is revolutionized with development. And that is what is giving us the drive and the push. So for the fact that Mr. President does not rest, we will not also rest. And we know he's not going to rest because he wants to be the champion of the Niger Delta, which he has communicated to us. So with the mandate that he has given to us under the renewed agenda, we will definitely do better.
The Nigerian Excellence Award in Public Service is an award that recognizes the words of innovation, purposeful leadership, and other exceptional deserving individuals that have contributed immensely to the growth and development of the public service and the country at large.
Needs stand as a reminder that leadership rooted in purpose deserves to be celebrated.
With the president reiterating the need for stricter monitoring and discipline, the government emphasized that awards like these serve not only as performance scorecard, but also as a lasting challenge for public officers to maintain excellence beyond the celebrations. Evelyn Isibili reporting for BTV News.
Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima represented President Bola Tinubu in Abuja for the inauguration of President Alassane Ouattara, who was sworn in for another term as President of Cote d'Ivoire. The ceremony was attended by West African leaders and international dignitaries. Vice President Kashim Shettima conveyed President Tinubu's congratulations and reaffirmed Nigeria's commitments to promoting regional peace, security, and economic cooperation. President Ouattara took the oath of office at the presidential palace, pledging to advance national reconciliation and economic stability. Shettima noted that Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire will continue to strengthen ties, particularly in agriculture and trade. On the sidelines, the World Bank commended President Ouattara's reforms agenda and announced plans to expand its partnership with Nigeria, focusing on energy, job creation, and gender empowerment. The Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Universities has announced that it will begin a full-scale industrial strike in January 2026 if the government does not meet its demands by December 31st. The decision was a key outcome of the association's 53rd National Executive Council meeting. The report.
Weeks have passed since SANU's 4-month ultimatum to the federal government expired. The association expressed frustration that no tangible resolution has been reached, despite being invited to a meeting alongside other university-based unions.
We were asked to submit our demands, which we did barely 48 hours later. And this is about the 4th week again since we submitted. Nothing has been done. And this is frustrating because it is no longer news that government had offered our colleagues a certain percentage of wage increase, and all the other 3 unions have not been given any offer.
SANU is also urging the government to tackle the worsening security situation in educational institutions across the country.
People must feed. People must survive. The system is getting overstretched. No electricity in most of our universities. Workers find it difficult to commute from their homes to their places of work. The security is not guaranteed because we are porous, we are exposed.
Other concerns raised by SANU include the alleged marginalization of non-academic staff in funding, renegotiations, and overall government engagement. The association also criticized the government for persistent underfunding, deteriorating university infrastructure, economic hardships, and the rising cost of living.
We have set a deadline between now and the end of 2025 that if federal government refuses to invite us and conclude discussions on this 2009 agreement as it affects SANU, we will shut down the system. We are not ready to go back to universities in 2026 without any tangible offer given to us so that we can also survive like human beings.
The association reiterated its dedication to working with the government to restore public institutions, enhance governance, promote accountability, and modernize public services. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for BTV News.
Operatives of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, alongside the Civilian Joint Task Force in Kogi State, have arrested 4 suspects for allegedly trafficking 21 children from Kano to the southwest region of the country. The suspects were intercepted in a truck along Islano Makutu Road in Yagba East local government area, carrying children mostly between the ages of 6 and 11. The driver and 3 other adults on board could not provide clear information about the children's identities. According to NCDC spokesperson DSA Abudalam Aliyu, the children will be handed over to the Kogi State Ministry of Women Affairs for profiling, medical checks, and tracing to identify their families. The Nigeria military is enhancing its joint structure and operational framework to stay ahead of emerging security threats across the country. The Chief of Defense Staff announced this at the opening of the Nigeria Security Exhibition and Conference in Abuja. The report.
Officers and security professionals gathered at the National Defense College for a security conference focused on future warfare, operational endurance, and force-building capabilities. The aim is to develop strategies and adopt new technologies to stay ahead of emerging security threats.
We recall and we see that the threats today is evolving, moving from the conventional threat that we used to know to other areas that are equally challenging to national security. Cyber warfare is increasing, and threats from multinational and other transnational adversaries. And so the Nigerian Armed Forces, under the leadership of the Chief of Defense Staff, is beginning to look at how we also transform to counter these threats. And one of the best ways to go is a joint approach. We recall in the presentation we talk about a unified approach, we talk about an integrated approach. And this is evidenced by a lot of other things, like today the warfare were kind of, the threats were, kind of meeting today is a joint threat in the theater.
Beyond tactics, equipment for addressing security threats is also on display. The initiative aims to promote the use of indigenous technologies while reducing reliance on foreign equipment for military operations.
These are technologies that can actually enhance and empower our defense forces to respond to this asymmetric warfare, because we are faced with asymmetric warfare. The dimensions of this warfare actually require new technologies. So that is what we are putting to the public domain that can now encourage the armed forces or the other security agencies to actually look deep into their arsenals and see what needs to be changed.
The federal government, through the Defense Industries Corporation, is ramping up indigenous production of equipment needed by security agencies to address evolving security challenges. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for BTV.
The Kaduna State government is strengthening collaboration with the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development to expand development support and review progress under the Reaching Out to School Children program. Governor Sani led the state delegation to a meeting with the fund's Director General, Walid Ha-Baha, in Kuwait City. Mr. Ha-Baha praised Kaduna as the first Nigeria state to benefit from the fund and commended Governor Sani's transparent, reformed, focused leadership. The governor highlighted achievements under the program, including mapping 79,000 out-of-school children, enrolling over 13,700 learners, and training 1,300 teachers. Additionally, 170 schools are being rehabilitated. 102 schools, new schools, are under construction, and the state is prepared to scale up once the next phase of funding is released. And moving now to the business news. The federal government has outlawed the use of fiscal cash for the payment of revenue and directed ministries, departments, and agencies to install point-of-sale terminals within 45 days. The reports.
The directive formed part of 4 Treasury circulars issued by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and obtained by newsmen on Monday. In the document, the Accountant General, Shamsiuddin Ogunjimi, said all the payments to the federal government must now be made electronically and routed through channels approved by the Treasury. All payments to government must be made through electronic channels approved by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and integrated into the appropriate Treasury single account, the cellular read, warning that the continued acceptance of physical cash was prohibited. As the 2025 licensing round gets underway, the federal government has reduced the signature bonus from $10 million to $3 million and $7 million. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission disclosed this in an update on its website. According to the commission, this was part of the government's effort to reduce entry barriers. Interested in one of the oil blocks listed for the 2025 licensing round, the Nigerian government has graciously reduced the signature bonus to between $3 million and $7 million. Government restores 450 megawatts to grid after power fleet revamp. The federal government, through the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, has restored 450 megawatts of generation capacity to the national grid following the completion of scheduled maintenance works on the Jerego National Integrated Power Project plant in Kogi State. The 4-week extended minor inspection conducted by Siemens Energy was executed to improve the facility's reliability and operational efficiency. The intervention also extended the plant's equivalent operating hours, strengthening one of the country's most strategic generation assets. The development was disclosed in a statement on Monday by the head of corporate communications and external relations at NDPHC, Emmanuel Ojo. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for BTV News.
Rep. Jasmine Crockett of Texas, one of the most outspoken Democrats in Congress and a frequent target of Republican attacks, formally launched a campaign for the U.S. Senate on Monday, entering the race on the final day of candidate qualifying. A last-minute entry immediately reshaped the political landscape of a high-stake contest in a Republican-dominated state. The reports.
Crockett, an Anthony and former civil rights defender before election to Congress, has built a national profile for aggressive style and willingness to confront GOP lawmakers. Our willingness to enter the race after the withdrawal of former Rep. Colin Arreld signaled the Democratic leadership now sees an opening, however, narrow in a state where their party has not won statewide office in decades. Our launch included a video compilation of Trump's past insults aimed at her, which she used to frame herself as uniquely prepared to challenge both him and the Republican establishment. Crockett, who represents a majority-minority district, emphasized her doubts about her viability stemmed from perceptions tied to her race, gender, and the state's political thoughts. She urged supporters to ignore those who claim Texas is unwinnable for Democrats. Crockett outlined a platform centered on rising costs, healthcare access, and the failure she attributed to Texas Republicans on issues like education and public safety. She has said that internal data shows she is capable of performing strongly in both the Democratic primary and the general election. Our strategy is expected to focus on energizing Black, Latino, young, and urban voters' demographics that have helped Democrats make gains in other southern states. Though Texas remains heavily Republican, Crockett and her supporters argue that shifting demographics and dissatisfaction with GOP leadership provide an opportunity for an upset. Crockett's main competitor in the Democratic primary is expected to be State Representative James Talarico, a progressive figure popular among young voters. The contest may become a defining battle over how the party positions itself in a state that has resisted Democratic attempts at statewide resurgence for more than 2 decades. The Democratic primary is scheduled for March 3rd. Crockett's entry raises the visibility of the race and could draw national attention and resources, especially as Democrats seek paths to regain control of the U.S. Senate. The Texas Senate race is now considered more competitive than earlier in the cycle. While still an uphill climb, Crockett's candidacy had unpredictability and may force Republicans into a more defensive posture if a campaign gains traction. Democrat strategy says even a close race would encourage greater long-term investment in Texas, a state where rapidly growing urban and suburban population. For Crockett, the campaign will test whether a confrontation style and a willingness to take on Trump directly can translate into statewide appeal in one of the nation's most closely watched political battlegrounds. Soher Osemeki reporting for Beetv News.
And now to the entertainment news. Grammy-winning Nigeria singer Temilade Openiyi, popularly known as Tems, has disclosed the major red flags that would disqualify a potential romantic partner, citing a lack of friendliness and curiosity. The reports.
In a recent interview with American Outfit Complex, the Love Me JJ Krona stated that the core essence of a relationship is lost if a partner is unwilling to be friendly or show genuine interest in their spouse. Tems admitted that while she is a lover girl, she is trying to be careful due to past experiences and is currently prioritizing self-love. Nigerian pastor and founder of Love World International, Pastor Chris Oyakilome, has captivated social media with an extraordinary display during his 62nd birthday celebration. The clergyman made a striking entrance to his party, dressed in a regal robe and crown, arriving in a chariot amidst cheers from attendees. The lavish royal-themed event was held by his church and family to commemorate his milestone birthday, drawing prominent religious leaders and guests from across the country. Videos circulating online show Pastor Chris Oyakilome being welcomed like royalty, a spectacle that quickly became a topic of widespread discussions on social media. Pastor Chris has a history of sharing extraordinary testimonies, including miraculous healings and revivals. Award-winning rapper Get has admitted killing a young man in a hit-and-run collision in northeast London. The grim artist, whose name is Justin Clark Samuel, failed to stop after his BMW hit Nepali student Yubin Tamang, 20, in Alford, northeast London on October 18th. Police said the rapper was driving over 600 mph in a 30 mph zone and hit Mr. Tamang, who was crossing the road. Clark Samuel, 41, from Woodford, East London, pleaded guilty to causing Mr. Tamang's death by dangerous driving and a second charge of dangerous driving on the same day. He also faces 2 further charges, which are driving while over the legal alcohol limit and dangerous driving. And that's it on the entertainment news. Evelyn Isabella reporting for Beetv News.
And now to sports. The Super Eagles are stepping up preparations for the 2025 African Cup of Nations in Morocco, as head coach Eric Chell prepared to cut his 54-man provisional squad down to 28 players ahead of the December 21 kickoff. Nigeria's build-up has been affected by the injury withdrawal of defender Benjamin Frederick and the international retirement of Captain William Troost Ikon, leaving Chell with key gaps to fill. CAF rules a last squad of 24 to 28 players, intensifying competition among those pushing for a place. Ola Inas is expected to return despite being sidelined for over 100 days with a hamstring injury suffered in September. Charles' decision to include him in the provisional squad reflects confidence in his recovery. Paul Onuachu is also back in the contention after rediscovering his current form in Turkey, where he leads Nigeria players in Europe's top league with 11 goals this season. His strong performances position him as a likely attacking option for the Eagles. And that'll be all on our 3 p.m. news update. Thank you for joining and stay tuned for our 6 p.m. major news. I am Ruth Obodu. Goodbye for now.